Hi, I'm Michelle Zuby. I'm a Board Certified Behavior Analyst with DiNovi & Associates. I'm going to be talking about treating private events in individuals with challenging behavior. This focuses on task list items E1, 2, 3, and G5. In the field of behavior analysis, we rely on empirically based interventions to serve individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities. In the majority of cases, when we look to the research, we are able to design and implement treatments that are effective in targeting behaviors and achieving specific goals. But what about the cases in which we have created a clinically sound and empirically supported plan, but the behavior doesn't improve and the skill isn't acquired? There are many variables that may be impeding upon the effectiveness of this intervention. One such variable may be covert behaviors or private events. According to Jack Michael, 1993, private events are similar to overt behavior in that they can have an impact on future behavior. We generally do not examine private events, such as thoughts and feelings, as a contributing factor for treatment evaluation, nor have we been trained to do so. An article published in Behavior Analysis and Practice in 2016 by Hoffmann and colleagues offers a potential solution for dealing with private events within the scope of behavior analytic services. They offer a model for thinking about private events in relation to clients with disabilities and suggest how to address private events within a clinical setting. Let's first review what private events are. Private events can be viewed as language-based and therefore be conceptualized via relational frame theory or RFT. The RFT approach supports that human language involves the behavior of relationally framing stimuli. The manner in which we frame is determined by two types of contextual cues. One guides the relation itself, and the other cue guides the function of stimuli that participate in that relation. Let's say that the word rat belongs to a frame that includes dirty, liar, or snitch. And the statement, "Don't believe Bill, he's a rat," would then guide the function of Bill as a stimulus, and you would be less likely to trust him. Another circumstance for private events is rule-governed behavior, which occurs as a function of the contingencies specified in the rule rather than as a function of direct contact with the environmental contingencies, according to Hayes, 1989. Hoffmann highlights that function-based interventions do not take the client's language and private events into account when assessing and treating behavior, and this may be problematic based on what we know about private events as a behavior that can further affect other behaviors. But this isn't new news. In 1998, Friman, Hayes, and Wilson supported the inspection of emotions for behavior analytic research. In 2000, Moore offered that verbal processes are discriminative for challenging behavior, not causal, and should be taken into consideration when implementing behavior analytic interventions. For example, if a learner engages in aggression when presented with math problems, and the aggression occurs with statements such as "I'm stupid," a BCBA may conduct a functional analysis, which may conclude that the aggression is maintained by escape from math work. An intervention to teach functional communication for requesting a break would be an appropriate replacement behavior for the aggression. But let's say that despite the fact that the learner is requesting and accessing breaks, he continues to engage in aggressions and continues to reference that he is stupid. Treatment for the reduction of aggression proves to be clinically insignificant. It is possible then private verbal behavior is having an effect on his overt behavior in addition to the nonverbal stimuli in his environment. Self-deprecating statements may be evidence of private events and self-rules that affect behavior, when the problem behavior continues at some level, even when program contingencies are in effect, because they act as motivating operations for problem behavior. Behavior analysts may take a functional approach to dealing with these private events, and doing so may be the next wave of our field, as many clients have comorbid diagnoses of anxiety, paranoia, and phobias. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, interventions, such as acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, may be useful when working with individuals with disabilities, given appropriate training of therapists and modifications to protocols and practices involved in the therapies. According to ACT, private events impact overt behavior. However, this effect can be regulated. For many BCBAs, the jury is still out on ACT. However, research supports ACT as a valid treatment intervention, and if you look, you will find it is rooted in behavioral science. ACT is founded on the concept of language as postured by RFT and rule-governed behavior. Thus, ACT assumes that the relations that a person has formed between stimuli cannot be undone, and that the function of the private event as an establishing operation can be altered to either evoke or abate certain behaviors. In 2012, Twohig suggested, when using ACT, the therapist or behavior analyst attempts to undermine problematic self-rules by helping clients contact the environmental contingencies for their behaviors. This is complicated because new verbal rules will be formed, and the rules should be approached flexibly and changed as situations change. ACT uses the hexaflex model of 6 core processes: attention to present moment, self as context, diffusion, acceptance, values, and committed actions. The goal of ACT is to change the function of private events and to increase behaviors that are in line with someone's values. But why ACT? Because of the cognitive behavioral therapies, ACT is conceptually systematic and founded in the principles of behavior analysis. Hoffmann and colleagues went on to describe how behavior analysts can also modify ACT processes and implement procedures that meet the level of functioning of clients with special needs. They suggest using ACT processes in conjunction with behavior analytic interventions, that this will afford clinicians the opportunity to treat a wider variety of clients. Within the article, the authors detail each of the processes and offer modifications for how these can be adapted to working with clients with intellectual or developmental disabilities. The following description highlights the diffusion process and how the authors adapted a diffusion exercise. According to ACT, cognitive fusion is when people respond to private events as they would stimuli in the external environment. Essentially, a person may respond to a private event as if it were physical stimuli in the environment, while not responding to external stimuli and contingencies that are actually present. These fused responses are controlled by the derived properties of stimuli, such as verbal rules, instead of direct contact with them. Diffusion is how the interaction with these thoughts is changed such that there is an altering of the functional context under which the private event occurs. For example, the function of thoughts may be changed by creating function-altering context, whereby different experiences are then associated with the thought or part of the thought's relational network. There are two types of diffusion exercises. One alters the function by teaching the client to observe their thoughts or covert language, while the other alters the function by deliteralizing language. They suggest that deliteralizing through word repetition may be a viable solution for individuals with disabilities. A word repetition exercise brings the individual into contact with the direct properties of a stimulus, such as the sound of the word lemon, and reduces the contact with the derived properties like sour, tart, or yellow. Another exercise in diffusion that could be modified for individuals with disabilities is the passengers on the bus metaphor, created by Steve Hayes. The metaphor suggests to view emotions and thoughts as unwanted passengers on a bus and the client as the driver of the bus. The idea is that the client is the driver and has control over where the bus goes, despite unwanted passengers who represent thoughts and emotions. The author suggests that the metaphor can be acted out with a toy bus and small figurines that the client could label as each bad thought. The client may engage with the figurines and verbalize each one of them. The client is informed to drive the bus, and as the client moves the bus, he or she determines where it goes, even if the passengers or bad thoughts are telling them differently. Further research is warranted using ACT with this population. However, Hoffmann and colleagues offer an approach that can be easily adapted by behavior analysts. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, spread the science, and comment below.